Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. The status quo is chapter 7, which is entitled, just trying to pull up, Further Inquiries by Vidura, and this is verse 13. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I'll share my screen real quick and we can go with the verse. Yadendriyo paramo atha drashtratmani pare harau viliyante tada kleshaha samsuptasyeva kritsnashaha. Again, yadendriyo paramo atha drashtratmani pare harau viliyante tada kleshaha samsuptasyeva kritsnashaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. When the senses are satisfied in the seer super soul, the personality of Godhead, and merge in him, all miseries are completely vanquished as after a sound sleep. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The quivering of the living entity as described above is due to the senses. Since the entire material existence is meant for sense gratification, the senses are the medium of material activities, and they cause the quivering of the steady soul. Therefore, these senses are to be detached from all such material activities. According to the impersonalists, the senses are stopped from work by merging the soul in the super soul Brahman. The devotees, however, do not stop the material senses from acting, but they engage their transcendental senses in the service of the transcendence, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In either case, the activities of the senses in the material field are to be stopped by cultivation of knowledge, and if possible, they can be engaged in the service of the Lord. The senses are transcendental in nature, but their activities become polluted when contaminated by matter. We have to treat the senses to cure them of the material disease, not stop them from acting as suggested by the impersonalists. In Bhagavad Gita 2.59, it is said that one ceases all material activities only when satisfied by contact with a better engagement. I'll just read that line again. In Bhagavad Gita 2.59, it is said that one ceases all material activities only when satisfied by contact with a better engagement. Consciousness is active by nature and cannot be stopped from working. Artificially stopping a mischievous child is not the real remedy. The child must be given some better engagement so that he will automatically stop causing mischief. In the same way, the mischievous activities of the senses can be stopped only by better engagement in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the eyes are engaged in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord, the tongue engaged in tasting prasad, or remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord, the ears are engaged in hearing His glories, the hands engaged in cleaning the temple of the Lord, the legs engaged in visiting His temples, or when all the senses are engaged in transcendental variegatedness, then only can the transcendental senses become satiated and eternally free from material engagement. The Lord, as a super soul residing in everyone's heart, and as a Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental world, far beyond the material creation, is a seer of all our activities. Our activities must be so transcendently saturated that the Lord will be kind enough to look upon us favorably and engage us in His transcendental service. Then only can the senses be satisfied completely and be no longer troubled by material attraction. Give me 1 second. Stop this one. Okay, so here's the translation of 3.7.13 again. When the senses are satisfied in the seer super soul, the personality of Godhead, and merge in him, all miseries are completely vanquished as after a sound sleep. Stop sharing and we can go over some points in the verse. So we can see that Srila Prabhupada explains with examples and references from Bhagavad Gita that unless there is a better engagement of the senses, they will continue to be troubled by all the distractions in this material world. So that is why we have this concept of Yukta Vairagya. As Prabhupada explained to us, it is dovetailing all our propensities, our likes, whatever tendencies we have in the service of the Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna also explains, we see in Bhagavad Gita, Yad Karoshi, Yad Ashnashi, Yad Juhosi. So, Tad Guru Madarpanam, Kaunteya. So Krishna tells Arjun that whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, any activities that you perform which are beneficial, towards the Supreme Lord, do it as an offering to me. So that purifies us. That whole, the dovetailing, the whole, engagement that will purify the senses and nothing else, because the senses are compared to serpents. They can get out of control and so on. So there are various examples for this, and we see that because the senses are troubled by material attraction, this is a sure way to keep them in check and in control. There's another important point in this verse about sleep. So the sleep analysis has been done quite in detail. So there is 3 stages of sleep. There is wakefulness, then there is the state where we're just about to fall asleep, just before you're reading something, you're just talking to someone and just falling asleep. And finally, there is deep sleep, which is the 3rd stage where we dream. So that is called sushupti, as in this verse. And we know that if we have lack of sleep, too less sleep also is a problem. A yogi is one who sleeps just right, eats just right. So sleep deprivation, when you don't have enough sleep, that is an issue. So here in this verse, it says when the senses are, are satisfied, like in the personality of Godhead, and they merge in Him, then all the miseries are vanquished. Just after we find when we wake up from a sound sleep, you're refreshed, right? So let's say you get up early in the morning, you go to the temple, you attend Mangalarti there, and then afterwards, after some time, after breakfast prasad, we sleep, and that sleep is like really sound. So this similar to that, the senses are satisfied. Now this is obviously there's another example from the material kingdom. We can see it's quoted in the Hitopadesha that Nahi suktasya simhasya pravishanti mukhe mrigaha. This means that in the sleeping mouth of a lion, the animals do not enter automatically. So and the lion cannot expect to not hunt and just get food in its mouth. So this is the opposite, where sleep is kind of condemned. Sleep in the sense not acting. So we do want to act and engage actively in service, but at the same time, we don't want to deprive ourselves of the required things like sleep, for instance. So, and Prabhupada towards the end explains all the various the ways in which we can engage ourselves in hearing the Lord's glories, visiting the temples, cleaning the temples. In Gundicha Marjanam, we have once a year, when we do extra cleaning. But then we can also do that, throughout the year. When we chant, we are cleaning and clearing up like our senses. When we taste prasad, when we offer prasad, cook, help in cooking, and so on. And all the temples are meant for this purpose. So we can see Madhuri Prabhu, really actively engaged in trying to, from the start, to build a temple, to plan the temple, and then to how it can help the devotees, how we can, help in serving. So all these like are centered around this fact that Prabhupada recommends, how we can ourselves, engage like all our senses, in actively in serving, and hence they'll be satisfied, they'll be placed in a better place. So it's like a child. Prabhupada again explains that it's like a mischievous, like a child. You can't say, just stop, don't do anything. The child will go crazy, trying to see, what to do next. So so instead you engage them like in activities, in fun activities, and something, and studying. In many activities, like in daycare, they constantly, they come up with new ideas to engage the child, especially in that age, in that young age. You can see that children are very mischievous, and so our senses are like that. Um, in the fifth canto of Bhagavatam, there is the whole description is about the material world as the great um, forest of enjoyment. There's a chapter on that, so we know that the whole comparison of how the senses act and everything. Um, so we see in general that the human form of life is in danger of getting um, entangled. Animals are more sensible in that sense. They have specific needs, the four needs: eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and and in each of them we see that they have more, how do you put it, restricted. They are more controlled, or contained, within that zone. So for instance, I was just taking a brief walk here, and then like in Woodbrook Corners, where we have some deer around, like in the trail, and there are deer that are standing like on either side of the trail. They're feeding on the grass, and as you approach them, I was thinking that they would run away. But what they do is they listen, sharply, and they see sharply. Once if we are approaching, they go on extra alert. And once you start to walk away from them, they immediately relax, and they go back to eating grass. So this means that they know that if someone is approaching, like it's a problem. If someone is retreating, then it's not. They go by the simple thing. I was thinking, what if I was retreating, and then I come back to attack them. If someone were to do that, but they don't think like that. They just think like either you're coming or you're going away. So they're more simple in that sense. Humans have a lot of power, of discretion. We have consciousness, and along with that comes this burden of being continually distracted and entangled by the material senses and the elements and everything around us. Kali Yuga especially, no need to explain. It's just 100 times more, like 100x more um, um, distractions as compared to previous ages, and it's just going to get like that and more, right, progressively. So yes, so the senses, in Bhagavad Gita also we find many verses explaining that, where Krishna explains the whole progression of how you need to place them like in the right spot. Otherwise, if you dwell on the sense of sense objects, and not even the senses, but if you let your mind dwell on the sense objects, then that eventually drags everything down. Like sangat sanjayate kamaha, and kama krodha abhijayate. So krodha bhavati sammoha, and finally leads eventually to buddhi nashat pranashyati. We fall back again into the material pool. So this whole progression and descending of a consciousness, our mind, our lives, in turn, right? Because then we will have to take a new life, which is again further down, like in the species, and it takes a while for us to come back again. So all this can be avoided, as we can see by engaging the senses correctly. So let's go over like a couple of examples or stories from Bhagavatam. So first we will look at King um, Pururava. So King Pururava was a great king who who ruled his kingdom, and he was very powerful. He was so powerful to the extent that Indra would sometimes take be by his side to fight against the unruly elements. He would ask for his help. He was a great king. He was a mortal. This is the interesting part where Indra and all the other demigods are part of the heavenly planets, but King Pururava was a king, was a mortal on this world, in this material world. But sometimes we find that in such ages, they used to meet, especially the great personalities. So King Pururava was of that kind. He would converse with Indra. He would help him like in his fights, and he was very well known. So in this way, once he met the celestial girl Apsara, Urvashi, who was in Indra's palace, and she was also attracted to King Pururava. Now in the celestial realm, everything is just all happy, you can say, like the ideal world, like they depict, like here probably something like Hawaii, sitting here, like no winter, no problems. So it's like that. It really is like that. So where you don't have any material issues, and sometimes especially for women who would like more colorful and interesting lives, they find this is routine. So she was kind of attracted to the mortal world where you have a range of emotions. So she was attracted to him, and eventually they meet, and he proposes to her and wants to marry her. So she says, well, this is out of the ordinary, but I can do that given three conditions. So he says, no problem, I'm a king, I can satisfy anything, so tell me what they are. So she says, all all the food that you cook has to be cooked with ghee, because we are used to eating very pure foods like in the heavenly planets, and I want to try to maintain my diet. So so ghee, I mean, here probably ghee a diet of ghee would probably be disastrous, but anyway. So he said, no problem, we'll take care of that. I have all the ghee in the world you need. Okay, condition two, then you should never appear without your clothes, like or naked, except when taking a bath. Um, we are we are together, and so on. So he said, okay, that's how I usually am. That's just civil. I'll take care of that. And third condition, I have two lambs, and you have to take care of them. They need protection, so I'm expecting you to take care of them. Okay, I'm taking care of a whole kingdom, no issues. So then they start leading their life, and one day, after 64 years, Indra actually is starting to miss Urvashi, like in his palace. Great entertainer. His palace like is missing, like all the dance she used to do, and it was so colorful. And then he says, so, what happened to Urvashi? So the Gandharvas say, well, she's married off to King Pururava, like on earth. So he says, go bring her back, somehow. So they say, okay, we'll have to see what we can do. So there were these three conditions. Only if we break those, she's going to leave him and then come back to you. So they go in the middle of night, and then they steal the lambs. So the lambs start crying out, and Urushi gets up and says, "What are you doing? The lambs are being taken away. Don't be like a eunuch. Go and help them. Bring them back." So the king gets up from his sleep. Okay, fine, I'll get up and go. And then he doesn't have all his clothes on. He's not dressed. So he gets up and runs out after the lambs to bring them back. And then the Gandharvas, they do their thing. They suddenly they light up, because they have the power to just be self-illuminating, right? So Krishna says, like in Bhagavad Gita, there is no need of now pavakaha in Goloka. You don't need electricity. It's self-illuminated. All the beings, like in the spiritual world, also are self-illuminated. That's why we find, like in paintings, they draw this halo around the head, indicating that they're self-illuminated. All the great personalities, and God, of course, and Lord Chaitanya, others, great devotees, so on. So these Gandharvas like had that power to self-illuminate. So they did that, and then the whole night and became like day, just like when Krishna and it changes and when it's time for I forget who it was, but there was someone who had taken a vow that he will not that that no, Arjun had taken a vow that if he is not killed before sunset, the Jayadratha, I believe. So then he'll jump into the funeral pyre. So Krishna modifies the sunset time, and again the sun comes out. So just like that, like in the middle of night, it was sun. It was like a huge light, and then she saw clearly like he's naked, running around after the lambs, and here are the lambs are taken away. It's probably the only thing that was missing was the he died, but she said, "This is a disaster. I'm leaving you. I'm going back to the heavenly planets." And the Gandharvas had achieved what they came for. Indra was fine. She's back, but King Purava was in deep distress and separation. And then the Bhagavatam explains how he tried to meet her. She already had their child. So after some time she comes down to deliver her child, just like Mother Ganga delivers a child for King Shantanu. So she comes in after some time and she delivers a child to him. And this happens a few times. They do have a few children, but he's just in between. When she's uh, in the heavenly planets, he's in deep separation and very troubled, by anxiety and separation, not able to focus on his kingdom, his duties as a king, and so on. So, so here we have like a live example of how the senses really, they torment us, they torture us if you let them get, out of control. So it happens to everyone, and it's an example. So in the Bhagavatam, another example is of King Bharat, Maharaj Bharat, as we know, 2, 3 lifetimes, right? So first he started, he meditated on and then got distracted by a doe. Um, I'm sorry, baby deer, a fawn. That's right. So by a fawn, and then so he broke his meditation, and then he was constantly focusing on the deer. Uh, Bhagavatam has verses which are extreme. He compares the spots on the moon to a deer, and he's missing the deer because finally the deer it grows up and moves away and goes away from him, and he's just thinking of the deer, thinking of it like at the time of death, and he takes a body, he takes a life of a deer. In his next life, he comes back as a deer, but he's wise because he remembers he's very and is very highly elevated. So he understands that now I'm a deer. I need to break out of this and get back to human form of life, and then get out and then elevate myself. So he stays around the hermitage of rishis and eats the leftover, the mahaprasad from there. Um, and then eventually, like he does, he passes away his life like that. He becomes Jad Bharat because he intentionally decides to not get uh, entangled with the material world. The same concept of not wanting to get entangled. Shukadeva Goswami, staying 16 years like in the womb of his mother, not wanting to get entangled in the complexities of material life until Krishna comes and assures him, and he's born and he walks away straight out to the forest, and then of course we know he speaks the Bhagavatam and so on. So yes, that was Maharaj Bharat, and finally he becomes Jad Bharat. Is a long story. We don't have time. How he meets King Rahugan, and finally he explains a lot of concepts to King Rahugan, and King Rahugan understands how he's very elevated personality, and he falls at his feet and begs his forgiveness. So that's for another time. So yeah, thank you. I think we'll stop here. See if there are any comments and corrections. I just try to quote from memory a few notes. I made some mistakes, so please correct and add as needed. If there are any questions, I can try to answer, or someone else can on the call. Okay, if not, can move on to the next part of Krishnaman Prabhu or Madhupati Prabhu. Any announcements? we can continue.
And Prabhu might be busy. I don't know. Madhulan Prabhu?
No question. There. There's no questions?
No, doesn't seem that.
Krishna Prabhuji, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
How to increase love for Krishna daily, incrementally? If you give suggestions, that will be great, Prabhuji.
Okay, I can just share whatever I know that. So yeah, so daily now, I think so. We have various programs, right, in ISKCON. So the whole, I mean, by programs, I mean the activities. So that's the, it's the purpose. We all get, entangled, and not only entangled, we get lost, like in the material world, right? All the responsibilities, and for good reason. We are supposed to, right? You're supposed to work. You're supposed to, take care of family. You're supposed to do this, and in that process, it might be very, very challenging, difficult at times to focus. Just a simple thing of getting rounds done, right? It's hard, but some days we know, right? You have to get to work, early, and you don't have time to finish quality rounds. Sitting in one place, 16 rounds. It doesn't happen like all the time, and most of the time we're running around. So, or even things like let's say you have a fixed thing, a small service, like let's say you want to do arti at a certain time at home or the temple. You might not be able to do that every day. We find there are so many things, like each day is different, like it's challenging. So the point is to make the best of it, to make the best deal of a bad bargain, as Prabhupada used to say. So we are here in this material world. Okay, so what next? Let's make the best use of it. We have this body, we're able to do certain things. Maybe we're not able to do certain things. We're challenged, we're handicapped, we don't have this. It's possible, but still, let's see what we can do and try to focus on that. And slowly, as time goes, as time progresses, we have to be patient with not only with the whole world and situation, but also with ourselves. Like our progress may not be as how we want to be. It might not grow like that. We'd like, everyone would like, let's say you invest some money, like in the stock market, you would like your money to just go skyrocketing, but it doesn't, right? There are ups and downs. Maybe it'll just be down after a little while, but but hopefully, like in our life, we're able to slowly make incremental progress, and like you mentioned, to increase our love. So these are the various activities, the 9 processes of devotion: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padanam, Archanam, Vandanam. So we can use all these one by one. We have various practical activities like in ISKCON that help us little by little every day, and that keeps adding, incrementally adding to our spiritual account, adding to our own experience. Gradually our senses get purified, and then we learn a little more, and we shouldn't be disappointed if we suddenly again stray away from the path. It's possible, because it's just so strong. We can see, right, there are extreme examples like in the Bhagavatam, and that's the reason Bhagavatam is very it explains, it shows us by extreme examples that it could happen to anyone. It could happen to us. So we just have to take care, and slowly our love will increase. Everything will keep increasing, and then we just keep doing our duties, because ours is a way of performing devotional service, and that's how eventually it increases. And many of the times we will find that we don't have the enthusiasm or the love, as you said, but then we still keep doing it because that is our approach, and then eventually love or bhakti will manifest more and more. So I hope that answers. If anyone else has any comments.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Sundarananda Prabhu, thank you very much for good class. Very good. But one comment that I like to make, that you mentioned that cooking with the ghee is a disaster. I disagree with you, and other senior devotee can comment on it if it is possible. Because ghee is good for cooking.
Ghee is good. I use ghee too. I use a lot of ghee too, maybe more than others would recommend. But yeah, sure, please.
Prabhupada's cooking was always ghee. And he recommended, in fact, that all cooking should be done only with ghee. Ghee is good for inside of the body. Oil is good for the outside of the body for massage. So that's the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. There's a lot of instruction in cooking, which somehow we have gone away with false fear. No, Kapila Muni also mentions, not Kapila, Lord Kapila, but this was another Muni. At here, Dinam Kitwa Pibat Jivet, Yavat Jivet Sukat Jivet. Beg, borrow, or steal, but eat ghee. No, beg, borrow, or steal, but eat ghee. If you don't have ghee, either bag, borrow, or even steal, but every day you should eat ghee. Okay, thank you very much. On that note, eating ghee with our ghee pati, Jai Prakash Prabhu. We will end. Weekend is the beginning of the Shravan festival, the 5-Sunday series of the pastimes of Lord Jagannath. This week will be from 9 to 10, every week, 9 to 10:30, Sunday morning. This week, the speaker is His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu, who is going to begin this series. The title was Lord Jagannath's Pastimes. Yeah. So circulate that flyer to as many people as possible. It will be broadcasted both live on our Zoom channel as well as YouTube. Is hosted by our temple and co-hosted by all the temples around us. Okay. Anything else, Krishna Prabhu? We'll have Govindas for the weekend. And slowly we are, July 17th is the Atlantic City Rath Yatra. July 11th is Rath Yatra on the actual day. So a lot of wonderful activities. June 24th, next week, is Snan Yatra. So a lot of wonderful festivals which you can be absorbed in serving Lord Jagannath. And so we also need to make sure that our surroundings are clean. So whoever would like to serve in that capacity can also come forward. Okay, Krishna Prabhu, go ahead.
Yeah. This 20th Sunday is Baladev Vidyabhush disappearance day, Gangamath Goswami's appearance day. 21st is Nirjala Ekadasi. 23rd, 22nd, Tuesday, Dwadasi day is Pani Hati Festival, Chidadahi Raghunath Das Goswami's Danda Mahotsav of Nityanand Prabhu's mercy. So please try to take the opportunity to offer something for Lordships at our temple. You can make if you are pujari, or you can bring the yogurt, nice, different fruits, cherries. They make so many different varieties of chidadahi. So morning or evening or whenever, if you are available, you can do so, or at home if it is not possible. So yeah, if you are broken, especially fast. And also Prabhupada said, Ajay's Prabhu's question, somebody asked disciple, Prabhupada said, man is the architect of his own future. Whatever is done, at least now start practicing seriously. And that's what Prabhupada said to one of his disciples. How do you become pure devotee? Then Prabhupada, that's what Prabhupada said.
The most awaited Parna time on June 22nd is 5:25 to 10:27 a.m. Yeah. And 21st is a big Ekadasi, Nirjala Ekadasi. And it's called Nirjala Ekadasi. Many devotees are fasting Nirjala anyway for many Ekadasis, but especially on this Ekadasi, it's recommended. That's why it's also called Bhima Nirjala Ekadasi. That no, Bhima, who cannot follow all Ekadasis, fasted completely on this Ekadasi. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna Prabhu. So Nirjala, in Nirjala Ekadasi, and night time also you should not take water.
Yeah, it starts from sunrise to sunrise. So it goes all the way the next day.
Oh, okay, okay.
During the Pana time, which I mentioned, that time you vacate by drinking water.
Okay, got it, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Cannot do it, no, it's medically or whatever reason. Okay, fine. Do what you can do. It's not that. Yeah, do what you can do. Okay, on that note, we'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare.